Hello. Welcome to Sweaty Heat Wave. My name's Sweaty Heat Wave. My website is sweatyheatwave.com. Blah, blah, blah. It's hot. It's hot. I can't take Vinny out until it gets cooler down because it'll be too hot for him out there. So he's stuck inside with me. So, yeah, jasonnewland.com is my website. My name's Jason Newland. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. And Vinny has spotted a fly. Is it the same fly from last year, Vin? Same fly's been visiting us. 10 years now it's been visiting us. 10 years. Andre used to chase the same fly. Oh, it's hot. I'm gonna scrunch my t-shirt up so my belly's feeling the cool breeze. There's a little bit of a cool breeze coming in through the window, a little bit. Well, it's a breeze. I don't know if it's cool, but it's breezy. I'm just going to imagine it's cool. I mean, technically, I don't have to take all my clothes off, because once I kind of expose my belly area, that's about 95% of my body, isn't it? So, oh, lovely. By the way, if there's any single women out there that are looking for a new boyfriend, come and let me know. Me and my big wobbly belly. Okay, I'll stop now. Whoops. I want to say thank you to Tammy for your PayPal gift. Thank you very much. And it's Sunday I don't know what the date is. I think it's the 29th or the 30th. It's either the 29th or the 30th of June 2025. Because the 1st of July is Tuesday and it's Sunday today. So if there's 31 days in June, then this is the 30th today. If there's 30 days in June, then today's the 29th. Were you then April, May, June and September, 30 days and 4 for the member? I can't remember the rhyme. I don't remember it. But I've told you 1,000 times. Yeah. Unfortunately, when you start telling me something that I'm not interested in, my brain shuts down. Sorry, I can't help it. Oh, my friend's still in hospital. I haven't been there this weekend. Today, you're going to hear Vinny shuffling about a bit because he's hunting the fly. Today, Sunday, is very, very difficult to travel anywhere unless you have a car of your own. And I was not going to ask neighbours for help today because it's Sunday, you know. So this is going to be like my summary of the week. That's what I'm going to talk about. Although I kind of went quite in depth. But there's probably stuff I've forgotten that I didn't mention. So the buses and the trains are not very regular on a Sunday. Saturday, I needed I needed to not go in yesterday. I needed a break. I just needed a little bit of time with my little baby boy over here. And I think he needed that because he's been acting strange towards me, especially the last few days before, I had some time, until I was back. For example, he's not really eating much at the moment, but I'm guessing that's down to the heat, a lot of that. However, he stopped sleeping in bed with me. Again, it could be partially to do with the heat, but he was just sitting down on the floor staring at me. He definitely had an issue with me, really. Like he was angry or whatever. So I managed to get him back in the bed with me, and he's fine again. But for a few days, I woke up the other day, he wasn't even in the same room. He was in the living room. He does do that occasionally, but it's rare. It's very rare. And I was starting to think, I wonder if I kicked him out of bed in my sleep one night and it upset him. Obviously if it's in my sleep, I'm not responsible for what I do when I'm asleep. I might have been a bit having a dream or something. Dreaming I was a daddy long leg, daddy long leg, juggling or something, I don't know. And so I might have just accidentally kicked him out of the bed, and it might have been a shock to him, because if he was asleep, and he's got every right to be annoyed with me for that. But at the same time, I would never do that if I don't know, I might do. No, I wouldn't. I would never do that if I was awake. Not unless he really annoyed me. No, I would never do that. It's my little boy. He's only little, isn't he? It's only a little baby. It's my little baby. My little baby. My little baby Vinny. Vinny. He's a bit grumpy as well. I think the heat's got to him a little bit. I don't care too much about the heat. Yeah, it's just heat, innit? I've been warmer. That's how I see it. It's like, you know what? I've been way hotter than this on numerous occasions. It's just, you just have to adapt. It's not forever. It's just for, I don't know, a few days, if that. And then everyone's going to start complaining, oh, it's so cold. Guarantee, in October time, guaranteed people will be walking around saying, we didn't even have a summer. What happened to the summers? Almost it didn't exist. Completely forgetting the fact that they couldn't leave the house because it was so hot. It's just, you could fry an egg on your head, especially baldies like me. It's like short-term memory, innit? That's what it is. So, I've been to Thailand. This is cool in Thailand. This is not a hot day in Thailand. And also, I worked in a bakery, like a proper big industrial bakery when I was in my 20s. That was hot all the time, like hot, with all them ovens, ridiculously hot. So yeah, this isn't really, I'm not saying it's comfortable. I'm not hugely uncomfortable though, really, because I'm indoors, got the windows open, I'm sitting down, just chatting with you, got my little monkey lying by my feet. My huge jelly belly. It wobbles even when I sit still. If you ever met me, you'd probably think, wow, I thought he said he was massively fat. Well, so, I mean, you know, if you met me, you wouldn't think, oh, I didn't realise he was slim, because I'm not slim. I have been doing some stomach exercise. Well, okay, I had been doing some stomach exercises until last Friday, when any kind of routine I had went up in poo, basically. Although it's kind of strange, because it's like I've started a new routine, but I don't want this new routine, really, because it's involving going to a hospital every day, and that's not what. Let's face it, unless you work in a hospital, it's not what anyone wants to do, is it? Go to a hospital every day. I mean, blimey. No, thank you. No, it's lovely, but I've had enough now, thanks. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I would make a very good patient. Because that's pretty much where the word patients come from, isn't it? It's like, he's a patient person, and the idea is to be, because you have to wait around a lot, don't you, if you're a patient. And back in the old days is a little bit similar to how my neighbour is, because he's been in there since Friday. So what's that? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 9 days he's been in there. And it's rare to be in hospital for that long, because there's a term in this country which is really, it might be in other countries, I'm not saying that we're special, but we are. It's a term which is being used by, I don't know if it was created by the NHS, but it was definitely on the news about the NHS and people that were in beds. So the lack of hospital bed availability to new patients, that's basically what the subject was. So people that were in beds were called bed blockers, which is such a horrible term, you know, for someone that's unwell, to call someone a bed blocker. That's just like calling someone a coffin dodger, isn't it? It's, you know, it's a similar kind of, it's in that ballpark. So he actually said to me, my neighbour, oh, I don't want to be in there because I'm just blocking the bed. And I said, if you were my size, you would be blocking the bed. You'd probably be breaking the bed, but you're not blocking anything. Yeah, but this bed could be used for someone that needs it more. So I'm like, okay. First of all, you're 78 years old nearly. You're nearly 80 years old. And I said, trust me, I'm not an expert on the NHS or anything. Well, anything. I'm not an expert on anything. However, I do know one thing about the NHS, is they would not keep someone in a bed unless they had to, unless it was important. They get people out as quickly as possible. I mean, there was a time when, if I hope it's okay to say woman, but when a woman gives birth, I hope that's not offended anyone. Back in, the last time I really had any contact with births was 1980, when my little brother was born, and she was in hospital for a few days, and it was just a standard birth. I don't think there was any, not that I know of, any complications. I think she was a bit sore, like most people are, I guess. But when she pooed him out, she wasn't. There was nothing extra happening, but she was in hospital for probably 3 or 4 days, probably, and then came out. And you know, nowadays they're just like, as soon as you've had the baby, they wheel you out. It's okay, well thanks, bye. And you're like, if they can, ideally, if they'll actually, if you give birth in the ambulance, they just turn around and take you home again. Seriously, I'm making it up. Seriously. I mean, I had my appendix out when I was 12. 11, 12. I lose track, to be honest with you. I think about 12-ish. And I was in hospital probably 5 or 6 days. Maybe a whole week. Best time of my childhood, that was. Happiest moment, happiest period of my life as a child, when I was in hospital. Strange, isn't it? I did have the time of my life. It was great. I mean, there was parts I didn't enjoy, like the pain, being prodded around and that, but generally, outside of the actual operation and the anaesthetic, I had a jolly good time. Jolly good time. But I'm pretty sure that anyone, a kid having an operation now, providing everything goes to plan, they'll be out fairly quickly. I've known people to have heart surgery and be out the next day. It's like, what? That used to be something you'd stay in hospital for weeks with, maybe even longer. It's changed. Everything's changed so much. At this point, my neighbour said, you ain't half going on. I just said that I feel that I'm blocking the bed. I mean, you give me a lecture. And I said, yeah, I know. How does it feel? How does it feel, hey? How does it feel? You do it to me, now I'm doing it to you. How do you feel being on the receiving end? And he punched me. But I said, look, they wouldn't keep you in here unless they needed to. I think it's fair. It's safe to say that, I think. They don't keep people in hospital beds unless it's necessary. And I think what had happened is the news bulletins, this is a few years back, I mean, it might even be going 20 years, 10, 15, 20 years ago, but there was a big focus on it and a massive guilt trip on people to, almost for being ill. People shouldn't feel guilty for being ill. It's ridiculous. And they even got to the point where they're saying, well, don't go to the A&E unless you're really ill. Are you sure you need to go? This is the accident and emergency. Are you sure you really need to go to the A&E? Don't block the A&E up. It's there for emergencies. And then they start giving examples of some people that would go in there because, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something really silly. But they'd always give the most extreme example, saying that someone went in there because they wanted to order a taxi or something, something silly like that, or they wanted to get a kebab. It's like, okay, there's going to be a kebab. There are going to be situations where someone walks into an emergency ward of a hospital and asks them how much for the suitcases or something like that, or where I need to get my dry cleaning done. It's going to happen occasionally, isn't it? But I imagine it's not the norm. It's not the normal situation. But these news bulletins and even adverts they put on TV, don't waste the NHS's time. Don't go into the A&E unless it's an emergency. The thing is, most people I'm guessing, just from... I think it's a fair guess, but most people, I imagine, are not medically trained. The vast majority of people are not medically trained, or at least not enough to know whether something is an emergency. Now, my friend's in hospital. He feels absolutely fine. Now, if it hadn't been for me, and I don't mean that as... actually, we'll just say it now, do it now. There's a hero if you look inside your pants. Right, we'll do that now, get that over and done with. If it hadn't been for me, and this is the truth, I'm not saying it's nothing good about it, but he would still be in his home having fun watching the sport. He'd know nothing about this. He'd know nothing. He didn't have a mirror, didn't know he was yellow, and he would have hadn't spent the last 9 days in what he thinks is prison, but it's honestly, he feels like he's locked up. But he wouldn't have been in hospital for the last 9 days. But he also wouldn't have been having medication to help with his blood, which is full of ammonia, which has caused him to be yellow. So who knows where he would be in after 9 days of no medication to help to clear that out of his blood. It sort of goes different ways, doesn't it? Paramedics said it was the right thing to do. Everyone medical said it's the right thing to do to get him into the hospital, and the fact that he's still in there is kind of backing that up, I would say. But he had no physical symptoms, so that was an emergency situation, and he didn't even know it. Now, I didn't call for an ambulance because I've still got that stuck in my head. Don't call for an ambulance unless it's an emergency. How are we supposed to know if something's an emergency? I was told that if someone turns yellow, that's a very serious situation. It's pretty much in most cases. I'm sure there are times when it's not, but it's the liver. It's an organ malfunction. And I didn't realise that the pancreas, the gallbladder and the liver were all connected, and any of those organs can cause someone to go yellow. I didn't know. I've done a bit of research since this all happened. Apparently we've only got one liver. I thought we had 3. Just shows you what I know. So I think I ended up calling 111, which is what they brought into play to stop people from wasting the emergency time, or the ambulance's time. And there are time wasters out there. Of course there are. There always will be. I mean, I knew someone that worked or volunteered at the Samaritans. I've known a few people actually that have volunteered at the Samaritans. Especially people that were counsellors when I was training and stuff. And I applied myself once, though they turned me down. Apparently something to do with not wearing any pants. But hey, I didn't know. I didn't think it was a normal interview. It's not always acceptable to take a packed lunch to a job interview. Where's the rules? Where's the rule book? No flasks of coffee. Apparently, they get quite a few time wasters at the Samaritans. And again, they don't promote this. The reason they don't promote it is because they don't want people to stop phoning up. By the way, the Samaritans, if you don't know what it is, there might be a version in every country, I don't know. It's basically a helpline. It's a phone. It's somewhere that you can phone up and talk to someone about anything. You're not really phoning up to get help as such. You know, if you need an ambulance, you need to call for an ambulance. If you need a police, you need to call for the police. The Samaritans, I think they can signpost you to different places, but they're really just an ear for you. You can talk about whatever's going on. And I think it's proven its usefulness millions of times over. Now, I didn't know. I think I might have called the Samaritans once, actually. Oh yeah, they were engaged. That's it. That's right. I phoned them once and they were engaged. Which was just, it's weird, isn't it? The one time. But it's an amazing service. I didn't realise that some people phoned up. There's two, I think probably you could say three types of time wasters. But the Samaritans don't class it as time wasters, because if they start putting adverts on TV saying only call if it's serious, only call, don't wait, it would be so negative that a lot of people wouldn't phone up thinking that they didn't need to. And that phone call could be life-saving for that person. They might not even realise how much they needed to talk to someone. Because some people have the need to have a conversation with a human being. So, or to feel that kind of communication, that connection, I guess. And I suppose also if someone's living on their own and things become normalised, don't they? So I've had that a little bit in the past where someone's found out what I'm doing and they're like, no, that's not normal. That's not normal behaviour. And I didn't realise. Now, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about right now. It's nothing horrible. It's just, I'm not going to tell you what it was. But the psychiatrist said, no, that's weird. I said, okay. Apparently, if you kneel down and put shoes on your knees, so pretend to be really short, and walk around. There's a thing you do that, but apparently it's weird if you do it around your house on your own. If there's no one else around, just do that all the time. Apparently it's a strange thing to do. Okay, so there's three types of people that perhaps don't use the Samaritans in the best way, potentially. But again, I've always got a caveat for these. I've always got a defence for the people doing it sometimes. So one is they phone up they use it as some kind of horny chat line. I think that's a nice way of saying it. One of those premium number chat lines. Some people use it like that. I know. I was quite surprised at that. I didn't think they could hear what I was doing. Beep, 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 beep. And then there's people that I guess are just on a wind up. They're just on a wind up. They're just like, they think it's funny just to mess around with people. There's always going to be those types around. And then there's I suppose, they said they get some people that phone every single day. And maybe they feel I don't know, they don't necessarily feel they're helping that person, but they don't know. They might really be helping them. Yeah, they get on first name terms with some people that literally call up every single day. And if that's what they need, then do it. Because that's what they're there for. They're there. It's a free service. And the way I see it, okay, I'm going from a different perspective. if I remember someone saying when I was doing the counselling training, someone said there's this whole theory about, well, if someone comes in and just talks absolute rubbish for 50 minutes, a bit like me now really, but they come in and you know why they come in. They've already had a phone conversation with the counselling service to find out what's going on with them and the reason why they have applied for counselling, or the reason they've been sent by the doctor for counselling. We're not going to have a full information, but just going to have at least an idea. So let's say they're in there because, I don't know, for whatever thing. Maybe it's, I can't think of anything that isn't problematic, but then they come in and they end up talking about basketball or football, or they talk about UFOs, or they talk about dinosaurs for 50 minutes, or they come in and they just make stuff up, blatantly just make stuff up. Now, this seemed to frustrate some of the other counsellors, and I've read books and stuff as well on it, and some people get upset with it, say, some counselling books will say, well, you've got to bring them back to why they're there, you've got to get them focused on all that stuff, which I do understand. But I kind of figured out that actually sometimes people need to use, I suppose, they can still be gaining benefit from talking to someone, even if it's got nothing to do with why they're there. Maybe just that human interaction. Maybe sitting in a room with someone that is listening. And what I've noticed that in most cases, I mean, it's going back a while now, they'd start talking about why they're there. Not always, but quite often. And I found that interesting, that actually, I suppose you could say some people use metaphors, stories. So maybe they give an example. It's a little bit like, say, I need advice for a friend. And you pretty much always know that the person's talking about themselves, don't you? So, if someone comes up to you, if it's someone you know, said, oh, I need some advice for a friend. And he's thinking about getting an enlargement procedure, but he's not sure because he's seen it on TV and he doesn't know whether or not it'll be safe. He thought about getting a pump, but he didn't get it in the end, and he hasn't got a lot of money because he's on benefits at the moment, and he's quite expensive, especially looking after his little dog Vinny. If you make a mistake and you give too much information away. But I think sometimes that's useful for counsellors, or for clients rather, patients, to do it in their own way. And I guess that's what I'm saying with the Samaritans. Sometimes if someone's they're not even talking about their own life, it might help them sort out certain blockages in their mind or in their energies or whatever. I don't know. Blockages in their energies? What are you talking about, Jay? I'm not 100% sure. I make most of what I say up. Now, Viddy's about 12 inches away from the fly. He's staring at it. He wants it badly. So he's resting his Oh no, it's made. He was resting his chin on my left leg, and the fly was on my right leg. And he was, I guess he was thinking, do dogs think? I don't know. I found a new technique, by the way, to stop internal dialogue, to turn it off. It's not really a new way, but it's a new way for me. Focus on the wind or the breeze. Because I'm always noticing new things about myself, and then sometimes I forget about the thing I've noticed, and then I notice it again a few years later, and then I forget about it again, then I notice it again. Something that I got a habit of doing is, so if something happens, it can be just the most simple thing, an interaction or a non-interaction, or yes, someone with a dog, they say something rude, which happens occasionally. Vinny barks, and maybe they don't like the fact that he's barking at their dog. And then I start thinking of all the different conversations I could have had with that person, how it could have gone. And that can go on for ages. And then maybe I'll see them again, and I'll kind of keep my distance. And I start imagining all the different scenarios and conversations I might have with them if I did see them. And it's weird. And then I thought, you know what? I'll focus on the wind. The wind outside my pants. You know, in the air. It switches it off instantly. I sometimes feel that I'm practicing, rehearsing what I'm going to say. I know I'm going to go out with Vin in a few hours, and I kind of know roughly who I'm going to see, what dogs are going to be there. And I realise sometimes I kind of rehearse things that I'm going to say to these people. And it's weird because I don't rehearse anything I'm going to say here. I don't really think about what I'm going to say until I start doing a recording. Unless it's like a specific recording where I might have a little bit of information in front of me and stuff, but not to let me bore you to sleep. But when I'm dealing with a human, I kind of, it's almost like I think sometimes I just say the same thing to everyone. Oh, it's hot today, innit? Oh. I mean, there's one thing saying, I was walking around after Vinny, and I had the poo bag on my hand. I was walking around, and he literally took me on a very long walk. So I saw about 3 different dog walkers during that journey of me just following him around the field, finding somewhere to do a nice big smelly one so I could pick it up. So I'm walking behind him with this poo bag on my hand ready to use. And I thought to myself, I must look like the world's worst ventriloquist. It's just because poo bag on my hand. So the next person I see, I say it to them. And then I say it to the next person. I say it to 3 different people. I said, I must look like the world's worst ventriloquist. I thought it was funny. So I think they did laugh. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I really don't want to be one of them people that is out of touch with reality. That worries me a little bit. I'm not saying I'm in touch with reality, but I don't want to be talking at people and not realising that they don't want me to be, because I have been that person. And I have to be very careful I don't do that. Because, you know, conversation has to be two ways. But I've got my little my little interests. So I've got a tendency of making weird noises with my throat, especially when I just had some water. I don't know, I think sometimes I'm just a bit too self-aware. It's almost like, oh, I just found something in my belly button. What is that? Oh, that's a bit of chocolate. It's not really. It's a Mars bar. No, it's not. I'm constantly studying myself. And I don't really know how useful that is, to be honest. But I seem to be observing what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, how I'm talking, my behaviour, the things that I want to say and don't say, the things that I do say and don't want to say. Yeah, it's weird. It's kind of a weird, perhaps a little bit too self-conscious. Perhaps. Perhaps just a really big egotist. But it's not, I don't think it's really in that way, because I like to be in control of me, but I don't want to be in control of other people. So that's a big difference, I think. I do like to have control over my environment, but I know that I can only do that in my environment, which is in this home, this flat. And even then, there's limitations, because I've got a very stubborn little doggy here, and I've also got people around here that are antisocial, that live outside and live in the other places. So I can't control them, I can't control him. But I've got a general control of the environment to a degree. When I go out, that changes a little bit. I've noticed that the last week, getting on buses, getting in taxis, asking people for lifts. It's been challenging. And there was someone on a bus the other day that was listening to, I think he was watching a YouTube video on his phone, but it's very loud. And again, I might have been reading the signals wrong, but it looked to me like he was doing it because he wanted someone to say something. You know, he was being antisocial, and he was just almost egging the passengers to say something so that he could, I don't know what, do what, I don't know. It wouldn't have ended well for him, but it would, I don't know what he wanted out of it. In the end, the bus driver just shouted at him, "You turn it down." And he did. He still had it on a little bit, but he was really like he was looking for trouble. And you're looking for trouble? You're in the right place. I can relate to that. I was a little bit like that in my early 20s. But this bloke was at least in his 30s, maybe 40s. So it was a little bit like, yeah. And it's not good to be like that at any age, but I suppose it's a little phase. Perhaps he's going through a little phase. Nice little phase. Oh, he's going through a phase. He's got his radio thing. It's a phone. Oh, his phone. He's got his phone on really loud. He's watching one of those movie things. It's YouTube. He's watching a YouTube movie. It's a video. He's watching a YouTube video on his radio. His phone. On his phone. Oh, and it's really loud. He's going through a phase. It's a phase. Oh, everyone, come on, let's give him a hug. And push him off the bus. So, yeah, bless him. A weird thing happened. My neighbour actually, he got into kind of an argument with someone on one of the wards he was on. Because he's now on a third ward since he's been there. And the second ward he was on, some bloke was complaining about him being too noisy. And yeah, he was being a little bit aggressive and stuff. And they ended up moving my neighbour. Keeping that bloke there, but moving my neighbour. So, I mean, I've only got one side of the story. There's the old saying, isn't it? You know, there's three sides to a story. The two sides and then the truth. You know, both sides then the truth. So, who knows what exactly occurred. But I did say to my neighbour, and I thought this was funny, actually. I said to him, because he told me on the phone, I said, well, because he'd been moved to a new ward and I had to try and find out where it was. I said, well, you know, when we go out for a walk, because I take him out for a sit down because in front of the hospital there's all these chairs and stuff like that. You can sit down, there's a duck pond. It's very nice actually, you know, especially in this weather. And I said to him, when we go out, perhaps we'll make a little visit to that bloke. Go back and make a little visit. Perhaps punch him or something. I was joking, okay? So I go and see him. We go out for a walk that day. And he said, on the way back, he said, we're going to go and visit that bloke then. I said, no. I said, like, look, everyone's in here because they're unwell. No one's in here for a jolly. They're not in here for fun. Apart from, well, even the nurses and doctors are not in there for fun, are they? But different people deal with being unwell differently, and perhaps his way of dealing with it is by being annoyed by you, or you know, by what's going on. And he was cool. I'm not sure if he really. I don't know if he was just joking or not when he said that to me. Should we go and see him now? But I think 20 years ago, I think he would have. Well, that would have had a different outcome. He's a bit fiery, but he's pretty old now. Maybe 30 years ago. So, mind that bloke would probably be a baby now, or he'd only be about 10. So the other bloke, so that probably wouldn't have been too good. I don't know how old he was, maybe 40s, 50s, I don't know. Anyway, I phoned my dad up just to sort of see how he's getting on with his treatment, because he's in treatment now. Started last week for 4 weeks, it's going to be. And I told him, I thought it was a funny story that, you know, my neighbour was, you know, the fact that he said, oh, should we go and see him? I thought that was quite amusing. I told my dad, and he was like, well, you can't do that. You get kicked out of the ward, you get arrested. Like, my reaction was, well, I'll do what I want to do, firstly, and tell me what I can do, but of course I'm not going to do it. Like, it was so ridiculous. I don't know. It turned a nice conversation into just awkwardness for no reason on the phone with my dad. Like, why? And his wife was there saying the same things. Oh, but you get in trouble. You won't be allowed back in the hospital. Like, I didn't say I was going to actually do it. You really think I'm going to walk up to someone in a hospital bed and start, you know, being naughty, aggressive? And of course I'm not. I don't know what they think of me, honestly. It's... I've got that off my chest now. I can't move on. That has really annoyed me. It's weird though, because my dad started treatment on Wednesday, and I spoke to him on the Tuesday. I didn't know he was having it because he'd just been on holiday, just to see how his holiday was and when his treatment starts. Oh, it starts tomorrow. I said, well, I was going to say to you, which I thought about for quite a while, is going up to the hospital with him on the first day of his treatment, just to be a bit of emotional support. I know his wife's going to be there, but I thought it'd just be a nice thing. And he said no. I said, I thought I'd just have a cup of coffee. I'm not allowed to drink coffee. It was really negative towards me. It's like, okay. I just thought maybe it'd be nice. And it just seemed weird that my neighbour wants me to visit. He wants me to be there with him. But my own dad doesn't. I know it was a hospital visit and it was to have treatment. But I just thought it'd be a nice thing to do, just to be there for him in a time of need, maybe, rather than just I don't know what I was thinking, really. Thought maybe it'd be a nice thing, but it's strange. Very strange. But yeah, he definitely didn't want me visiting. Well, he said he didn't want me visiting. Or not visiting, but he didn't want me to go there. I said, well, I could just see you, give you a hug before you go in, or... No, it's alright. Just didn't want me. Yeah, some bloke a neighbour I've known for 10 years, is asking me when I'm going to go up next, phoning me up. You know, as well as seeing him every day, I'm speaking to him on the phone probably twice. One in the morning before I go, and then one in the evening. It seems to be strange. I have this weird relationship with family. I seem to be more appreciated by strangers than by people that actually know me. Or I think I'm just known. I think the real me is known better by people that don't know me. I don't know if that makes sense. Family don't know me. They don't know me, the real me. And I think, like, neighbours, I've got to see the real me. People that I've helped. And because I think if you help people for no reason, they get to see, it's not the reason to do it for me, but they get to realise that, because I think for some people it's quite an unusual situation to give without expecting anything back. I mean, I've got help this week from people that want something back. Then I got, so I've had lifts. I've had 3 lifts this week. 2 of them by someone that gets paid to take me. The other one was by someone that didn't want anything. So it's kind of, I offered the money to both. One said no. The other person said yes. And one went out of their way to take me, and the other one only took me because it was going where they were going anyway. So that's the person that went out of their way to take me was the one that didn't want any money. It's kind of just a weird... They're both helping, and I was grateful for both, but it's just a different way of thinking, and I quite like that, because that's the way I think. I don't know, that just feels right. Helping someone feels right. It just feels nice. So technically, I suppose it could just be I'm selfish. I'm just, I'm just making myself feel nice by helping the neighbours and doing stuff. Maybe that's all it is, and to me that's a win-win, because if I get to feel good and they feel the benefit as well, then that's a win-win all round, I suppose. And I imagine my neighbour that gave me a lift, that didn't want anything, felt good for helping me. And he's only a young lad, he's only like 20, 21, something like that. And it was lovely. Such a, he potentially, here the dog's in the background, he potentially made himself late for work. So I said to him, look, can you hear that? Did I just swear then, didn't I? I just said a naughty word. Bloody dog. I can't moan about dogs because he does the same, this one. Except him, he's like, he screeches, is so high pitched. It rattles the windows. It rattles the windows of my soul. So it's been a weird week. It's been a weird week. It seems to have lasted, really. The dog doesn't normally bark quite so much. There's probably a cat in the garden. Or the kid, maybe the kid out there just playing with it. Oh, Vinny's tail's going now, so he's hearing the dog. Did your tail just go, Vinny? Are you excited about hearing the doggy? Are you excited? Yeah? The week feels like it's lasted a long time. It doesn't really feel as if it's gone quickly at all. That might be partly because I've got a lot done. I know I haven't made loads of recordings, but I've done a few. And I've done a lot of travelling. And I worked it out the other day or yesterday that I think I've been out more in the last 9 days, like probably, than I have done in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years. Maybe 2 years, actually leaving the area that I live. Yeah, it's oh wait a minute. In January, did I jiu-jitsu, didn't I? So I went there a few times, or a couple of times. That's two journeys out. That was in the winter. It was cold. It was cold. It's really weird. I try not to moan too much about the weather. The only weather that annoys me, the only weather that affects me really is rain. Just because of this little one. And he just refuses. If it's raining, he refuses to do his business quickly. It's almost like he wants to take his time. Now, in reality, he might just be doing exactly what he normally does. But I'm getting wet, and I don't want to get wet. Oh, the rain when it's windy as well, so I can't use my brolly. So the umbrella can't be used. It's just okay, yeah. especially at night, so I can't see anything much. It's raining and it's windy. Or even if it's raining and then I've got my torch. My torch is broken, so I have to get a new torch. So holding a torch, holding a brolly, and trying to steer this little one and pick up his bits and bobs after he's sprinkled them onto the floor, let them fall down like little anchors out of a little boat. Philly's poos are very much like anchors. Yeah. That's something I didn't realise. I was watching Words of Gummidge earlier, and it was the original Words of Gummidge from the probably early 80s. Late 70s, early 80s. And there was another character in it that I'd not seen before, or at least I'd forgotten about. And it was Barbara Windsor. She was like this porcelain statue. And Barbara Windsor, I mean, she looked young there. And she would have been, I mean, she wasn't old, but she would have probably been in her 40s at that point. But she just looked so young. And, because oh, wait a minute, no, was she in the Carry On movies in the 60s, or was it the 70s? That Barbara Windsor was in the Carry On movies. I'm not sure. Because, yeah, she might have just been still in her 30s. But she just looks so young. I had not seen her outside of the Carry On movies. I'd not seen Barbara Windsor look young. Like that kind of, young. Because when she was in EastEnders, she was a lot older. And she was probably in her 70s, 60s and 70s or whatever, 50s, 60s, 70s. I've forgotten what she looked like. I've never seen her. It was out of context. I've seen her in two different places, the Carry On movies and EastEnders. And there was many years between them. Never seen her in anything else. So this is the first time. And I was like, wow, okay. That's the Barbara Windsor I remember from the Carry On movies. This would mean nothing if you don't know who Barbara Windsor is. And if you don't know what the Carry On movies are. They are I don't know how to explain it really. They are a heritage from this country. They were comedy movies, and I loved them. I still love them. Not everyone's cup of tea, of course. No one's ever going to love everything, are they? By the way, I watched a movie called The Amateur, and it's really good. It's really good. It's got I can't remember his name. It's got quite a few famous people, quite a few big names in it. It's a really good movie. Unfortunately, I think the problem with some of these movies that are coming out is the titles. The titles don't give away really. I mean, it does, I guess, if you think about it, but now seeing it, The Amateur makes kind of sense, but it's all like espionage, and that doesn't really interest me so much, but it's really good. Really good. Yeah, I liked it. And I find myself not watching movies because they just don't, they look a bit bland. Like the cover, the description doesn't even sound interesting. Nice plane going past. I did watch a movie the other day called, I think it was called The Death of Stalin. Very funny. Armando Iannucci, I think, is the person that wrote it. Armando Iannucci, I think that's his name, is phenomenal. I think he wrote In the Thick of It, or The Thick of It. Very, very funny bloke. Great writer. And very different from anything. I think he's got a different way of looking at the world to any other writer or producer that I've seen. I don't know if he produced it, but he wrote it. It's really good. It's very funny. It's just... And because they didn't do... You know when they do movies and they put on accents and stuff like that? They didn't bother with this. It didn't need it. And I don't think it's needed, really. I know some producers or directors are looking for some kind of authenticity, so they'll try and put on foreign accents, and this didn't even bother. Even Stalin himself was a Cockney, like a Londoner, and it was funny. It's just it's great. It's a really, really, really good movie. I started to watch it years ago, because it's not a new one. I started to watch it years ago, but I don't know, sometimes I'm not in the mood and I just give up watching something because it doesn't catch me, doesn't grab me. I'll tell you, a couple of things were like that. One was, you're going to be surprised at this, Sopranos. I thought it was a pile of poo-poo. When it first came out, I watched a little bit of it and I thought, nah, see ya. Didn't want anything to do with it. I thought, oh God, this is boring. It's just another one. Another Robert De Niro wannabe movie. You know, it's like, nah. It's been done to death. It ended up being one of my favourite TV shows probably ever. Because it was a great show. I mean, arguably by millions of people that loved it. At the start, I just thought, oh. And it was really promoted. It was, this big thing. Oh, watch the new TV show, The Sopranos, new HBO show. It's going to be on Channel 4 on Sunday night, starting with a double episode. And I thought, nah, you're alright. And then I ended up watching it for, 10, 11 years, whatever it was on. Yeah, wow. It started when I was in London. And it finished when I was, I think, in the last year of university, or the second year of university. That's crazy, isn't it? Apologies for the squeaky sounds in the background. It's just the neighbours. I think it's quite a little echoey area out there. That's what it was. I don't think it's so much that people are talking really loudly. They are, but I don't think I don't think they're talking. I think they're probably just talking normal volume. No, they're not. It's echoey. So it's like a little echo chamber, and we have a similar thing in this garden, but it seems to catch the wind sometimes. Like the wind seems to move around the garden. Yeah. Another TV show was... I tried to watch this multiple times. It was The Walking Dead. I tried to watch it, and I only got as far as... There's the beginning. I'm not going to spoil it really if I just tell you. He wakes up in a hospital, and he walks out of the hospital, and then he sees the first zombie or whatever, and I just turn it off. I was bored. I tried to watch it probably about 5-6 times, thinking to myself, well, this is a popular TV show. I should really give it another go. At this point, I think it's probably into season 3 at that time, because I hadn't had any decent internet that was even fast enough to stream Netflix at that time. And back then, Netflix was pretty much and I think Amazon was around as well, but they were the two main ones, Amazon and Netflix. There was no Apple TV, there was no Now TV, I don't think, which was Sky. There was no Paramount streaming, and there would have been no Disney Plus streaming. So it's sort of MGM streaming, So it's kind of a bit limited. Netflix was pretty much the main one, and apparently it only needed 5 megabytes a second to stream Netflix, and my internet didn't even cover that. It's like, wow. So it wasn't really until I think I moved in here that I started watching The Walking Dead. Unless I did, maybe I downloaded it, I can't remember. I know I downloaded all of the episodes of Frasier. I think I downloaded all the episodes of Cheers, and I watched them every day. This was during a period when I was, I suppose, probably waiting for this place. That 2-year period when I was kind of in a bit of a limbo-y period. Yeah, I watched every single episode of Frasier. I think I probably watched a couple of episodes a day while I was having my breakfast. And I don't think I even had a television at that time, which is weird. No, I must have had a television. How could I not have had a television? I think I did. Yeah, I did have a television. Yeah. Another one was, what's his name? You hear these sounds. I don't know if you can hear them or not. I can hear them, so I imagine you can hear them. It will be less. God, why are they shouting? I sometimes think that the adults are just saying to the kids, shout now, go on. He's making a podcast up there, shout. Because they're bored. But I'm probably just imagining that. Maybe. There was, remember when I first moved in here, there was a little bit of a neighbourly dispute going on between this bloke that lived downstairs and a bloke that lived upstairs. And the bloke that lived downstairs had a few friends, like other neighbours, and they were literally standing outside. This was early in the morning. And you know those things that go bang, like little gunpowder packages, and you chuck them on the floor and they go bang, but really loud. They had them and they were chucking them up at his window, at his bedroom window. And that was quite early on when I first moved in. And that's when I realised, what have I done? Because that is the mentality of some of the people that have lived around here. Because that's not adult behaviour, is it? And I thought, wow, that's very strange. I tell you, one day, because I don't talk about what's happened around here. One day, I need to write a little book. I'll do it vaguely. I'm not going to mention anyone's names. The fact I can't remember anyone's names anyway, because they're just people that have come and gone. But some of the things I've seen, wow. Some of the things, you wouldn't even believe it. I saw a couple of neighbours getting into punch up over some frozen sausages. It's true. Wow. I remember once my friend downstairs, he came home. He was with his cousin and his cousin's kid, but he was a little bit worse for wear before he even went out. He got escorted back by the police. Well, he got brought back by the police. And I think this is before I got Vinny, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was, yeah, it would have probably been before that. So my friend was telling me he was a little bit bruised. So he said that he got started on by, there was like 6 blokes. And this is him outside, so he's outside the police car. He's not in trouble or anything, the police have brought him home. So I think he was struggling to really function. And I think he just went up to them and they didn't like him approaching them or something, I don't know. And yeah, well, we stopped a few, because he was struggling to walk. It was because of what he'd ingested, whether it was alcohol or whatever. So he was very worse aware, as I said. So we were stopping every few seconds, and he'd tell me the story. He'd tell it over again, and it'd change every time. By the time we got inside his flat, there was 30 men that started on him in the park. 300. It just kept expanding. So, I didn't know what he was talking about in the end. But it was funny, started off at 6, ended up at 30. It started off, there was 6 teenagers that were just being a bit obnoxious, and then it ended up being 30 Royal Marines in tanks. It was what the heck's going on here? I remember the only time, because he used to love to lie, but sometimes it was obvious, sometimes it was less obvious, and we'd laugh at stuff, But I remember once he said something, and I said, I'm calling BS on that. And he couldn't stop laughing, because he wasn't used to people standing up to him to be out, I think, pulling him up on stuff like that. But it was so ridiculous what he said, because I literally knew the truth. I knew what was what. I wasn't in a mood for just going along with it, Sometimes I just go along with it just for the sake of it. It was easier, if it depended on how he was, what his mood was like, or what my mood was like. But on that occasion, my mood wasn't prepared to put up with it, and I said, I'm calling BS on that. That might not be in the words I used, but And he just stopped and looked at me, and literally he couldn't stop laughing. It was just because he said, you don't normally say stuff like that to me. I said, I know, but come on, I can't be bothered. You're just talking rubbish, absolute rubbish. And he just said, I know, but he just I don't know. It was a very funny moment. A very funny moment. There was another time with him. So we had another friend who I'm still friends with, who came in here, and I think we was watching boxing. Very likely it was boxing, because that was often the only time that a Saturday evening where my friend would be upstairs with me. Because normally on a Saturday night I watch boxing, or I'm left alone. So if he's up here, it's usually because boxing's on. Or when he was around, that is. So my other friend comes up. Well, he was like mutual friend of both of us, another neighbour. So he came in. He was just sitting next to me, and he said, I was sitting at my table. He was sitting on here, and my other friend, my friend downstairs, was sitting on a chair over there. So the new friend that just come in, he said, "Oh, are you okay if I light up a joint? It rhymes with oint, boint, toint, shoint, loint, woint. I can't think of a word that is a proper word that rhymes like that. Hoint. Point. That's it, rhymes with point. Anyway, I said, yeah, I suppose. I don't care. I think he was just sitting there having a beer, and I was sitting there probably drinking Coca-Cola. And the stuff was so pungent, because I don't touch that stuff, and it's like so pungent, and I was coughing a little bit. He, my friend downstairs, was like looking at me like, oh, it's awful smell. So my friend with thing that rhymes with point, he said, "Can I just borrow the toilet?" I said, "As long as you give it back." We all laughed. And he said, "Okay." So he went to the toilet. Luke, my friend from downstairs, he said to me, "You got to please ask him to put that out. It's making me choke." Because Luke did have really bad lungs anyway. He had, I don't know, asthma and COPD, whatever. So he said, "Can you ask him to put it out? Because I'm just can't. I'm struggling to breathe with that thing on there, and I want to watch the boxing." We had the windows open and everything, but it was just too much. So I said, "All right, I'll ask him." So he comes out of the toilet, and he sits down and says, "I don't mean to be rude or anything, but are you okay to maybe smoke that in the kitchen, or put it out, or maybe go in the garden, because it's a bit too pungent, a bit too smoky?" So he was fine with it. He said, that's okay, that's fine. Luke pipes up. He says, "Oh, really? I'm fine with it. It's okay with me. It's not bothering me." It's like, what? And he looks at me and smiles. It's almost like he did it purposely, just to make me look silly. I didn't say anything. I was like, just shook my head. I can't believe. And then we watched the boxing. He kept looking over and smiling at me because he was so pleased with himself. And when the other neighbour left, Luke started laughing because he was holding the laughter in right away. He was like giggling to himself, and they started laughing as soon as my other neighbour left. Because I think the boxing finished, or he had to go and do something. And I've told that neighbour since Luke passed, or when he left, I told that neighbour about the story. He found it funny because it's how Luke was. He just had his sense of humour was. It was a funny moment. It's one of my fond memories, actually. Another one was when the same neighbour actually. He spent the summer living in Luke's flat because he had some problems. He had his own flat, but Luke was kind of looking after him, really, sort of emotionally, and he's spending time with him. And another neighbour opposite, in the building opposite, was mowing the lawn. And apparently this is what happened. Luke puts his head out the window. He says, "Excuse me, mate, I suppose you could just hold off doing that for a little while, because I've only just got him to sleep." So the neighbour came over, thinking it was a baby. He looked through the window, and there's a fully grown man on the sofa, asleep. And they both started laughing. The neighbour started laughing. And it's... when I was down there when this happened, and when Luke told me, honestly, it was one of the funniest things I heard for a long time. Because it was so ridiculous. Like, "Oh, can you keep it quiet? I've just got him off to sleep." Like, you don't think that's going to be a grown man, a grown adult, asleep on the sofa when you say that. And "I've just got him off to sleep." Like he'd been like cradling him and singing sort of bedtime stories to him or something. Lullabies. I told my neighbour that as well. He found it funny. So it's weird because those two stories were kind of a connection with that other neighbour that's always going to be there, however strange that might be. There's that connection because we were both friends with Luke, and Luke was kind of just looking out for him for that summer. Yeah, wow. I don't know why I'm talking about him. Mr. Lukey, baby. I got a thing in the winter, like before Christmas, and it was going to be dangling on the tree outside because Luke planted the Christmas tree that's in the front garden. It's now as big as the building, but it was a little sapling when he planted it, and it's grown to be massive. So it's funny. As it grew, once it got above the length of the surrounding bushes that are trimmed, the council kept coming out and starting to trim the tree. So every time the trimmers were out, Luke would run out and say, "Don't touch the tree. Don't touch the tree." And he did that for years. Don't touch the tree. And then the tree got too big and everyone left the tree alone, and they kind of got to know. And now it is nearly as tall as the building. So I kind of look at that tree and I think of him, because I know that he planted it, and he planted it before I was even here, because he'd lived here a couple of years before me, maybe 3 years before me. So he'd already, he planted that. Yeah, he must have been, because he'd lived here for 12 years. Wow. So yeah, maybe more than 2 years before me. I think he might have lived here for 4 or 5 years before I got here. Yeah, maybe. It's I could find out, but I don't know exactly. It's not really important, is it, I suppose? My neighbour that's in hospital, he's been here since about 1999. Which, if I do remember, is about the same time as The Sopranos starting. Roughly. That's a long time. It doesn't seem like a long time, but it does as well at the same time. How many times can I say in a sentence? Time. A lot's happened. But then what is it now? 29, 39, 49, 59. So it's 26 years. Because that period was potentially the highlight of my life, of my adult life, kind of. It was one of the best periods of my life, between the ages of, I'd say probably January 1998 and 2001. Once I got to 2001, things went a little bit eerie. Not eerie, bit not so great, but 88, 89, 99, 2000, 80, what? 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. So yeah, I had three years which things were going fairly well, in some ways. And because I just started my interest in hypnosis, NLP, and then in 2000 I became super interested in the internet and building websites. So during 2000, the whole year I devoted to building websites, to learning how to build websites, and it was the most exciting thing I'd ever done in my life. For some reason, I became obsessed with it. Absolutely obsessed. And I miss that feeling. And I kind of realise now that I was probably, for some of that period, going through a very big manic stage. But I didn't know. All I knew, I was enjoying myself, and I'd be awake. I was getting like 4 hours sleep a night, if that. Didn't need to eat, really. Just like I'd forget to eat because I was so busy focusing on the web pages and how to build them. I had all these big pile of books, HTML code, how to. Yeah, I just loved it. Loved everything about it. It was like a code I was trying to crack. I had the books, but I was trying to crack it on my own, trying to figure it out on my own. And I once spent. There's a thing, with on the internet, or on the phone, you press a link, you click a link, and it takes you somewhere else, another website, opens up another page on the website, takes you to an app, whatever. They're called hyperlinks. So I wanted to figure out how to build a hyperlink on a website, a web page rather, to take it to other pages. You could also do it so it took you to another part of the page as well. But I wanted just to figure out how to do it. Now, it's very easy to do if you just look into a book. But I refused to do that. I wanted to work out how to build a hyperlink by dissecting a page. And I spent days doing this, just dissecting a page, taking a little bit of code off, and then seeing if that page works with the link. And if it didn't work, I put it back to what it was before, and taking a bit more off. So I stripped down the page as bare as possible, to the point, and this was a big page from the internet. It's like an internet page that I'd copied. So I stripped it down to the bare minimum, to the point where it pretty much was just the code for the link. There was a little bit, I suppose, body, whatever, just so it worked. But I broke it down to its bare minimum. and it took me probably three days, maybe 4 days even, doing that. 18 hours a day, solidly focused on that one page, and I loved every second of it. There was probably a bit of frustration as well, because it didn't work most of the time until it did. But it was so satisfying when I figured out how to do it. Yeah, I could have just looked in a book. I mean, I had probably 5-6 books. Any of those books would have told me how to build it. And it was just, I was determined to figure it out myself by, I guess, reverse engineering it would be called now. By unbuilding the page, working my way back to the beginning of the page being built, you know. I did a similar thing for how to make something, how to make text a different colour, how to make it a different size, how to make it bold, how to, all different things. It took, so I devoted a whole year to that. I loved it, I really did. I remember, I've told this story before, but not for ages. When I started Churchill Insurance, we had information on they called it the intranet. So basically, you could read stuff off the server. So it wasn't the internet, you couldn't access the internet, but you could access bits of information. Now, I decided that it's okay to have all that information, but it's very much scattered. And it would be easier if it was all in one place. So I built a website in between calls, and I linked all the stuff that was on the computer system on the internet. So script to read out, information about no claims bonus, information about each company, answers to common questions, a converter, like a calculator, but it was specifically for converting sales to see what conversion you are and stuff. But someone else built that, but I added that to it. And I started using it myself. I didn't, and then someone on my team said, "Oh, can you email that to me?" So I did, and eventually, quite a few people around the sales floor was using it because it's useful. Because everything's in one place. You just clicked on it, and it just gave you a list of things you could click on, and it's very simple, but it was useful. It was weird because on one day, I'm on a phone call, and my manager or my team leader said, "When you finish that call, can you come off? Can you log out?" I said, "Okay." And I was coming to the end of the call, and I logged out. And there was 2 blokes standing there with him, and he said, "Can you come with us?" And I thought, "Oh, this is not looking good." Really did not know what's going on. I thought I'd messed up big time, you know. Sold lorry insurance or haulage insurance to someone with a Mini, you know, just made a mistake like that. That has happened, but yeah. But it wasn't anything like that. So they took me up into the IT department, and there was another person in there, and they all sat me down and they said, is it true that you built that website on the intranet? I said, "Yeah." "How did you do it?" So what do you mean? See, they thought I'd somehow infiltrated the intranet and brought in software and maybe put some kind of virus onto the system by using disks and stuff like that, which I hadn't. There was no access to do that. And they said, how have you done it then? I said, well, if you brought a disk in, if you managed to, how have you got it onto the internet? I said, I built it. He said, what do you mean you built it? You built the website, how? I said, what do you mean how? I just built it. I know how to build websites. It's very basic, it's nothing special here. Probably couldn't do it now, but I could then, because I'd spent 1.5 years doing it. Because I spent half of 2001 also doing it. And they said, they couldn't understand, how did I build a website in between phone calls without bringing in disks and code and without infiltrating their servers. I said, no, I just built a website on the server from my computer, and then people wanted it, so I shared it. It wasn't on the intranet, but it had a link to the intranet. So the website was just a website page. It was on my desktop. I shared it, added all the hyperlinks to the pages on the intranet. That's all it was. So it was just one page, opened it up, and it was a website with the links to all the other stuff. So all the other stuff was already on there. And they're like, how did you do that? I said, I just did it. I know how to do it. And they didn't believe me that I'd done it off of my own head. I said, yeah. And they were annoyed because they said that they'd spent the last year trying to put together some kind of website service which would do exactly what I'd done. I mean, theirs would have been more complicated and more precise and a much better version. But they were peeved because this bloke said that he was taken on. He'd been there for nearly a year and had been planning to do this. He was the IT boss, or part of the IT team, and that was one of his jobs, is to put together a website on the intranet for all of the workers in this, because there was like hundreds of people working there. And then they could update, there's a new script to read out, or there was a new rule, or there's new, always changing stuff. So it'd be quite handy to have that information. Just stuff like for new people, the phonetic alphabet. It's handy to have that, because I was learning that. I didn't know the phonetic alphabet properly until I started working in that job. So someone new, they could just have it on the screen. Just click a quick click and it's there, and they can just read it out, just get to know it, and have it on a little page below what they're doing, so it's just always there. So it's just simple things like that. And he said, well, we're going to have to take it off because can't have it on the intranet. I said, it's not on the intranet. He said, what do you mean? I said, it's not. It's just on people's desktops, individual desktops. You can just ask people to take it off their desktops. It links to the internet, but it's not on the intranet. So they had no control over it. And I think that's what annoyed them, because this thing was not on their own internet, which is what an intranet is. It's the company internet, which they have complete control over. But if you have a link to that intranet and you're on that system, then it just logs into it. I don't think they knew that was possible. Maybe they didn't realise you could do that. So I didn't know it wasn't supposed to be done. I didn't know that it shouldn't be able to be done, because the intranet's supposed to be very private and secure, which makes me wonder, maybe that link on the normal internet might have taken them there as well. I don't know. I doubt it though. So they told me we can't use it anymore because they were gonna build their own, and they were in the middle of doing it. And I had a little hope then, a little hope in my chest, a little bit of ooh, maybe they're going to ask me to help build it, but they didn't. They didn't at all. And I was like, oh, okay, because I could have built it so easily. Well, I already had, but I could have made it much better, and maybe looked into, with the right software and stuff, I could have made it quite nice. It's not that I didn't have any qualifications or experience. I just had a year and a half of fanaticism for building websites. That was my obsession. I was obsessed with it. That's all I did with my time. I loved it. Loved every second of it. It's weird. I just absolutely loved it. And they never built the internet website while I was there anyway. But they did tell people to take it off. I didn't take it off mine. And other people didn't take it off theirs either. So people were still using it. So they just, they were still putting stuff on the internet like individual, but they didn't put it in a way that you could just find it easily and quickly. So I just continued using mine and updating it as I needed it. And a year later, they still hadn't. I think the bloke left. They still hadn't put it together. I'm sure they have now. I mean, it's 20 odd years later, but it was like a little, quite a nice little moment for me, really. Although to start with, I was a little bit concerned. I've been taken in a room with 4 men. Thinking, oh, what have I done? But yeah, it was quite cool. They just couldn't believe it. Like, how could you do that on your own? The thing is, it was quite basic code, HTML. It's once you see even now, I can, because I use code for my website. Its code is already there, but I add my own code. And I can get ChatGPT to make the code, but I can change the code. I still know now. It's very basic. Just by changing the size of things, the colour of things, I can change the links. So I can play around with the code even now, even after all those years. It's quite handy. I can read through the code and kind of find some stuff. Even after all those years. So a year and a half of obsession, some of it did stick. But then again, in 2004, I was building my own websites as well. So I took a break from building websites for 2 years. So 2002, 2003, no, about a year and a half, 2 years, and then I started again. So in September 2001, or no, it was the summer 2001, I was no longer building websites because I was evicted. And then I moved to a new place and I lived there 2001, 2002, and probably 2003 I got a computer and I started building websites again. And then 2004 I built a website which was Help with Pain. And then 2006 I built my website freepainrelief.co.uk. So I built that with code. And then eventually I started using website builders because it was just easier. It was a lot quicker. So I stopped using code. I stopped building them from code, which was probably in some ways a mistake because that was a skill that I could have built upon. And I'm not saying that I was skillful, but it was definitely some knowledge I had, which it was doing something that I really enjoyed doing as well. So there's a lot of shouting in the garden, so I'm going to go. So thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself, because you do deserve to be happy. Be gentle with yourself. You do deserve to feel safe. Lots of love. Bye.